Good morning, Rhino. Hope everyone had the most amazing weekend ever. Let's get into it. Let's let everyone get in. We sent out a nice email this morning, invited. Actually, I think we sent out an email to like 3,000 additional people to invite them into Rhino for the first time, which is really, really exciting. Now, how many of them are jumping in is a story for another day, right? But we made the outreach and we shared our resume in the email. So for those that want to participate, that would like to participate in a better way, in a way that at least makes money on a consistent basis, cool. Those that don't, fine. It's not going to really upset me too much. You know, sometimes I'd like everyone to be the best that they could be, but sometimes people are just busy as well. So let's go ahead and give it one more minute. I'll take a sip of water, then we're going to get into it. You know what the worst is? When you just fill up a bottle and you put the lid on and the water's in like the crevices for the lid where the screws are on. So when you turn it, you just feel it go down your face. And when you're being recorded and you have water dripping down your face, it's embarrassing. And I know it firsthand, right? Okay, cool. All right, so let's kind of just touch on a couple of things, right? So what was it? Last week, I guess we got to go back a little bit, right? So the initial premise that we've shared, that we, from the top down, because again, to be a participant in this game, you have to know which team you're on. That's, in any game, you have to know the team. Are you on the red team or the green team, right? Are you on the red team? I'm thinking about roulette, red team or black team, right? Because I went with my wife to Atlantic City this weekend, and I had won in roulette. And she had reminded me that I won purely by luck. And I said, well, duh, right? And that kind of ended that conversation. But apparently I put the money on just a color and said, I'm all in. And there wasn't a lot of money, right? Like I don't do that. But I won. And when she woke up the next morning, she's like, oh, you won, but you cheated. I'm like, we're playing roulette. There is no cheating. You know who cheats in roulette? The casino, right? So we won. Anyways. The point being, you have to know which team you're on. And what I mean by that is when you go back through the Socratic method, right? Like what is a stock? What makes a price go up and down? What is the genesis of all of this? And it's money flow, right? And you might say, well, duh, like well, we don't really need to know. No, you do. You need to know where the money is flowing. Because if you go to a place where the money is not, you're going to lose. If you go to a place where the money is, you're going to win. In fact, I remember seeing many, many photos of the California gold rush and people dig in and they have their little filters and all the rest. And you know what they always had? Gold in it. You know who the pictures weren't of? The people digging in the filters with no gold in it. You know why? Because no one cared that they were over there digging for gold because the gold wasn't there. They just get passed up in history as like never existed. If you go to a place where the money is not, you don't exist. And if that's something you want, God bless, that's not something we do. So we go where the money is, right? So when you understand where the money flow is going, then you can start making investment theses. Then you can start taking trading opportunities. And the belief has always been that what we're seeing right now is a complete decimation, a complete crash of government. That the problem in the world is government. That government has become so large, so bloated, that it's just it's a sewer of unqualified people all looking to loot the nation at the same time. And that goes relatively unchecked for quite some time while things are going good. But government, when things are going bad, gets exposed. And when things start becoming cataclysmic, the exposure gets larger and larger. The point being, when you have the most incompetent people ever, and I say that, and I know it sounds like Anthony's being vicious and Anthony's being mean, and this isn't the way we want to start on Monday. When I say the most incompetent people, how do people actually become representatives of government, right? Like elected politicians. Well, they get voted. They get voted by their constituents. Is it something where they go out and they all fairly compete and say, hey guys, my name is Anthony, I have this idea, vote for me. Hey, my name is Ted, I have this idea, vote for me. Hey, my name is Kimberly, I have this idea, vote for me. Or is it, no, you must vote for me because that person's going to throw your parents back in chains. that person's going to go throw grandma out the window, and they want to see you die. Okay, well that's kind of actually what it is, but that's kind of like what's that mean? Well, they don't want you to do this. If you elect me, I'm going to go ahead and give you more stimulus. I'm going to make sure the economy's back up. I'm going to do reparations over here. I'm going to do government mandated minimum payments over. And what you end up having is that politics has degraded to such a point that the elected politicians aren't voted because they're good. They're not voted because they're liked. They're voted because they bribed you. Hey, if you vote me, I'll cut tax rates to this. Well, then all the big companies are like, yeah, I know nothing about this guy, but if he could cut tax rates at 10% from 30%, I know I'm going to make an extra trillion. What do I really care? Let's vote him. Or if you vote me, I'm going to raise the tax rate to 50% on all of the wealthy people, and I'm going to use that money to go ahead and fund social programs for those that have not been a part of the community, those that have been abused, and it's not your fault, it's your color, it's your gender, it's your age, we're going to take care of you. Then you get all the people that are lower in the income spectrum saying, oh, great, this guy's going to go ahead and finally tax them. He's going to use the money and give it to us. Cool, let's go vote him. The point is, no one knows anything about these people. They're just buying what they're selling. They're allowing themselves to be bribed. Politics is the only thing in the world where you legally can bribe people. In fact, there's a whole industry called lobbyists that bribe the politician. Oh, we're going to give you this money, but you better do this, right? So as you degrade this further and further, that is where the crash is, right? So when we go ahead and take a look at where we believe the money flow is going to go, or where we are willing to put our money, there's only two places. The teams, red and black, right, with roulette. And of course, there's always this green 00 somewhere, but thank God it didn't roll when I put it on black, right? And my wife's like, yeah, you put it all on black. I was like, I know I did, right? And anyone that doesn't know ours doesn't know that joke, but she got it, right? The point of the story is, now that I just completely messed myself up, is that we're picking the two different teams are between government and private sector, right? Like, where does money go? It only can go two places. Either the government has the money and they manage it and they do what they do with it, or the private sector. The companies get the money, they manage it, they do what they do with it. So these are opposing forces. And that doesn't mean to be that they're confused with conflicting or confrontational. They can live in a world just fine together. In fact, that's what they're doing right now. Big government and big businesses complete partnership with each other because there is more middle class. You cannot own a small business. The tax rate. Have you ever seen the tax rates for being a middle-class person in America? You get nothing. If you're really, really high on the income spectrum, you get tax breaks for, being able to game the system with your accounting and your company. If you're at the bottom of the spectrum, you get different tax breaks and tax incentives and government stimulus programs. But if you're in the middle, you get completely annihilated. Like, there's nothing for you. It's, oh, no, you're not bad enough and you're not good enough. You're just there, right? And that's always been the backbone of the country because it is those people who go ahead and always want more. They're competent enough to have made it that far. And if given the resources and the opportunity, some of them will go ahead and continue exceeding to higher levels. That's America. Well, when you wipe them all out, it has a problem. It becomes a serfdom region where you have the elites and then you have the serfs. Hey, we're up here. We'll tell you what to do, right? We're big business. We own all of you. You're our employees and our customers. Hey, we're big government. You need us to give you subsidies and stimulus programs and welfare programs. So you're going to do what we say. Hey, big government, I'm big business. Hey, big business, I'm big government. I got all these people. I got all these people. If we work together, then we can have them together. Oh, welcome to America, right? So that's where we are. So the point of all this story is we can then take a look at these two arenas and say these two teams and say, which one do we want to participate with? Well, if you take a look at if you want to go ahead and participate with the government, take a look at what they're offering. What's their team offering, right? Like, who's their quarterback? Joe Biden, right? Like, I already don't want to be a part of it. But like, let's take a look at the menu. You have 7% inflation. You have 30 trillion worth of debt. You have an entire nation, if liquidated, is only worth 24 trillion. And you're going into a recession. You're looking to hike rates to go ahead and stave off inflation, but then you're going to lower economic growth because now you're making the cost of capital more expensive, all on a base of what's the average economics of the people in the country, right? Like, what's the wealth distribution? Well, the top 1% own, I think, 70% of the wealth. The top 10% own 90% of the wealth. The bottom 50% share 2% of the wealth. Okay, well, that's not good. So if something bad happens, like if you go into recession, how bad is it? Well, the average person will only, no, we're not talking about the average person because there is no average person. There's people over here, and then there's people over here. There is no people in here. So don't tell me the average person. What's going to happen to the country? Well, the top 1% will be just fine. The bottom 99% are going to get annihilated. They're going to get crushed. Well, if you have the bottom 99% getting crushed and they don't have any ability to go ahead and, if you were unable to get a successful small business during the best of times, welcome to what a recession is going to look like. You're not going to get it at all. It's like, if you can't do it during the most prosperous times, you're not going to do it during a recession. So could there be a little bit of instability over here? Could there be a lot of people that are really upset? Could there be a lot of people fighting for jobs that they want to get over their neighbor, right? Because when you have 99% of the population all down here, they're all dependent on the government and the private sector. And in recession, if there's not that much to go around, you have a problem, right? Well, then you have a political season. This is the midterm elections. So, okay, so you can have the Democrats coming out saying it's all the Republicans coming out saying it's all the Democrats. And what does that do? Where does that lead us? Well, you can see very clearly, right? So you have a thing in Canada, the truckers, right? Like they're the Freedom Convoy, and Canada is actually, if you donate it to the truckers, they're tracing it back to your bank account and freezing it. Like they've gotten very draconian, they've gotten very authoritative. But you would not know that in this country because we don't want people to know that's a bad thing because the government wants to do that to people in this country. It's almost like a test pilot. Canada, our best ally, our biggest trading partner, they share a border with us. We are literally turning our heads and allowing it to happen. But what's going on over in Russia and Ukraine, a faraway land that actually means nothing to us. And you could say, well, Ann, how can you say that? We have no economic interest of any substance that has to do with Russia and Ukraine. In fact, I was reading a report, Citigroup as a bank has the most exposure of any company in the entire US, and that's $5.5 billion. Do you know how big Citigroup is? It's like $200 billion. Do you think they care about a $5 billion loss if they had to lose every dollar they had in Russia? No, they don't. Now you might say, well, Anthony, Vladimir Putin, he's crazy. Well, I remember you guys saying the last president was crazy, President Trump. So your ability to be a psychologist is not very good, right? So I don't know Vladimir Putin. I've never spoken to him. I'm sure that if I sat down at a bar with him and he described to me why he's doing the things he's doing, before you get triggered, I'm not saying I'd agree with him, but I think he's a coherent individual that'd be able to share it and I would understand his point of view. That's not to say I'd agree with him, right? And maybe I would. I have no idea. I don't know what his point of view is, but I do know the people on CNN are not going to allow me to believe what his point of view is because they've been wrong every single time. Well, Ukraine, they're really fighting. Okay, yeah, they are. But how long can they fight? How much force did Russia actually send in? So when you take a step back and you start taking a look at what's really going on, I don't really care about that. So it makes no difference, right? What I can see is over the last 10 years, Russia has been selling off their dollar reserves, their bonds. I can see that over the last 10 years, they have been buying a lot of gold reserves. Sorry. So what does that mean? Do you know right now Russia has more gold reserves than they have dollar reserves? Do you know right now Russia has over $100 billion, in gold reserves? Okay, so what does that mean? And so I go, so $1.5 trillion economy, $100 billion in gold, who cares? Yeah, who cares, right? Their currencies, well, this is also another thing that people need to pay attention to. Your currency is the most important thing that you know nothing about, right? A country like Russia just saw their currency get chopped in half since Friday, which means the net worth of every single person in Russia is now half, which means you can work your entire life, you can do everything right, and at one stroke of a pen, you're now worth half. And that's when it was half the week before. So everyone in Russia now worth a quarter of what they were once worth. You must know, and you must always have a certain level of belief or confidence in your currency, because you could work, you could get $1 billion today, right? You're in America, you earned $1 billion. If that currency gets halved, you now have 500 million. Would you like to lose 500 million overnight? I don't think so, right? So let's play the game out, right? Now, I don't know if you've ever played chess. I particularly didn't like chess because I wasn't good at it. And you would think, yeah, well, you're kind of like this equals this equals this. You're like the domino man, this domino. I know, but I just was never, I was bored with it. It was too slow. I need something quicker. So I'm not really very good at something that's like, okay, now have patience and sit there and just allow the world to happen, right? Like I want to be on the front lines. And that's what we do at RHINO. We're constantly doing something because we're taking on such a big goal that it always has something for us to do, right? Okay. So if you were Russia, and Vladimir Putin in Russia, come on, Russia is like synonymous with chess. Okay, so how do you play this game? All right, well, if I'm Vladimir Putin and I go ahead and take over Ukraine and I send all my people into Ukraine and I'm completely oblivious that there's going to be sanctions, that my currency is going to get annihilated, that I'm going to be taken off the SWIFT banking system, that Europe is going to go ahead and team up against me, that the Democrats in the US have a full rate of 37%, and you have a president that's getting a State of the Union address tomorrow, and he has nothing good to say because he's done absolutely nothing correct. And if you think I'm making that up, then you could, I don't want you to lie, right? Like you don't need to try to come up with something. He's done nothing good. And that the president of this country is simply going to take this as an opportunity to say, okay, good, we could deflect everyone's attention to war. You could say whatever you want about me, but I'm the president that defeated COVID and I defeated Russia, and that's all I need to know. You could say everything else was terrible about me, but I went there and I'm proud of my job that I did. I mean, if I was Joe Biden, I would take that, right? Yeah, you could say I was the biggest catastrophe, but I was at the helm when we suppressed COVID down to zero. You could say it would have happened without me, but it doesn't matter. I was there. And when Russia stood up to Ukraine, and I said, I will look at them right in their eyes and I'll tell Vladimir Putin to go kick rocks, I did. 10, 20, 30 years from now, when that book is written, Biden might sound like a pretty good president. Yeah, well, he had, like, when you go ahead and read the history books, does it give you a day-by-day itinerary? No, it's not a diary. It's a chapter. It's a chapter. And then our 46th president, Joe Biden, was at the helm where he defeated COVID and he defeated Russia. A lot of the citizens were not always pleased with him, but he will tell you till his last dying breath, he's very proud of the job he did, and America's stronger because of him. Next chapter, right? Like that's how history's written. And in fact, that sounds great. And then actually, in fact, 30 years from now, that might actually be true. And 30 years from now, my children, my grandchildren might say, Anthony, I don't know why you have pictures of Joe Biden all over the house with dartboards. He was actually a pretty good president. Maybe history is told by the victors. Time goes by and you forget the day to day. Nothing's as important as it once was when you're remembering it, while you're thinking about it. Okay, so I'm Vladimir Putin. All right, so let me just, am I oblivious to all of that? Do you think Vladimir Putin went into Ukraine and said, oh my God, now what do? They fought back. America's involved. Europe's involved. Our currency, our SWIFT, our sanctions. Oh, no, I don't think he did that at all. I don't even think that's close. And when he went ahead this weekend and said put his nuclear arsenal on high alert, do I think Vladimir Putin's dumb enough to use a nuclear bomb? I don't. But I do think if he's completely on this, like for instance, my wife and I watch Game of Thrones, and I don't want to do a spoiler alert, but the second to last episode, there was this person and she wanted to seek revenge, and she had this big dragon, and she was going to go ahead and they were going to make the town that they were going to go and get she was competing against the other queen, and she was going to go to the town and have them lay down arms and surrender, in which case she would be able to capture the queen and punish her appropriately, right? And everyone had that plan. And she went in and she did that, and everyone rang the bell. We surrender. You're really good. You're going to kick our butt. And you know what she did? She then took her dragon and demolished the whole city. She burnt women and children and everyone and destroyed and killed 1 million people. And she was cheered for it. And when she was asked, like, hey, like, you're a psychopath? That was not the plan at all. You killed children. She goes, no, I'm defeating an ideology. I'm defeating what they know. We're going to save the world from previous thought. Because all of these people that we would have left alive would have been alive long enough to know how it was. And realistically, at some point down the road, they would have went back to that way. What I want to do is kill them all and then go ahead, the next generation, teach them the correct way going forward. And I'm not going to give you the spoiler alert because, it didn't really work out well for her. But the point is, in that moment, did she believe that was a good idea? So I would say Vladimir Putin, 99% is not going to use a nuclear bomb. That's like, really, like, if you do that, you got a problem. Like, the whole world jumps down your throat. But if you think that this whole world is corroded and cockroaches and you want to go ahead and just start anew, it's kind of the way you would do it. Now, I don't think you would even be able to do it because it would get shot. 99.999%, I don't think you would, but there is a 0.001. The point of the story is, do you think this is all like that the fight and all of the rest is new to him, that he did not expecting this to happen? I don't think so. In fact, when you take a step back from Russia, you're able to see the board much clearer. Now, the reason I say chess is because in this whole conversation, it's designed to presume that Russia is the king. And if you don't play chess, the king is, your king, not king, checkmate means the king's dead, right? But I don't think Russia is the king, because Russia is a $1.5 trillion economy on the eastern side of the globe, next to a really, really big country that's a $30 trillion economy that actually hates America just as much. The name of them is China. Now, China has their own Ukraine. It's called Taiwan. If I was China, I would say to Russia and their friends, Xi and Putin, I'd be like, yo. And I don't think they say yo, but let's just break it down, right? Yo, why don't you just send some forces in there? Everyone's gonna get all pissy, right? They're gonna get in arms. Don't really send something in that's gonna destroy a whole city, but just send it in and get their attention, right? Like, get them to put sanctions on you, get Europe to be sucked into the war, get America to take the bait, get sucked into it over there, right? Do all that. And actually, while you do that, because you're going to cause so much instability, you're going to send gold prices up, you're going to send oil prices up. And Russia, I think you're okay with that. Your biggest export's oil, and you have $100 billion worth of gold, right? So in fact, you could heal your own currency overnight if you said, all right, we have all of this reserve, we're going to tie our currency to our reserves, we're going to tie our currency to gold. In fact, you would probably have one of the strongest currencies in the world if that happened. But listen, while you do that, I'm going to go take Taiwan. And you and I are going to go at this together, because America and all them are already going to be sucked into you. And the second we do something, they're going to fight on two fronts. Europe is not going to touch us because we're China. We have 25% of our investments over there. They might be able to do something to you, but they're not going to do it something to us. So if we just kind of link up a little bit, we could just clean house. But you got to get them sucked into you first over there so that we can go ahead and set the board the way we want. If I was playing chess, I would say that would be much more likely than what we see in front of us. Because what you see in front of you is what you're meant to see. It's you're not in Russia. You don't have a friend in Russia. You don't know anyone in Russia. Well, maybe you know someone, right? But you don't know Vladimir Putin. And if you do, I don't think he told you what he's doing. And if he did, then you're probably like, oh my God, yo, Vlad, Anthony's like telling everyone what you're going to do. In which case, like, I'm just, don't tell him that, right? I don't need to knock at my door. Okay, anyway, the point of the story is, the reason why we're sharing this with you is because when we decided to pick our teams, we decided we're picking corporate America over government. And the reason we say that is because when you go ahead and pick government, well, you're making the mistake because that's where the crash is happening. So all of this stuff that's happening in Russia, what is money now going to do? They're going to flee Russia. The money in Russia is looking to get out. Where does that money go? Well, and I see what you're doing, but it could go to Europe too. Sure. What's the problem with the money going to Europe? Europe is a complete socialist regime. You do not elect those people. They're in place. They make dictates. Europe does what Europe is told by the chancellors and the prime ministers. You don't vote them out. It doesn't work like that, right? So when you take a look at Germany, Germany put out a pamphlet, How to Survive Without Electricity. because they went so green that they decimated the whole oil and gas industry in the efforts of building windmills and solar, right? France, do you think Macron doesn't have a grip on France, just like Trudeau has in Canada? America is special because we have 50 states, and each state has states' rights. That's what makes America beautiful. You could have the most do-to-do president in the entire world, which, by the way, we do. He cannot unilaterally do anything. States will stand up for themselves. So that's what makes America different. So when you're talking about where to put your money, you might say, okay, well, I'll put some money in Europe. But how much counterparty risk does Europe have with Russia? Because in the United States, Citigroup leads the whole country with $5 billion. Do you know how much counterparty Europe has with Russia? They share a border. They're next to each other. So therefore, if you move money into Europe, you now have a Lehman situation from 2008 here in the United States, where, okay, yeah, well, this bank is strong, but 10% of their reserves are to Russia, but it's only 10%. They can make do with it because the other 90% is their reserves are in European banks. Okay, that's fine. What about that European bank that has 50% of their reserves in Russia? They go down. Well, because Russia went down. So now this bank not only is dealing with the 10% of Russia, but how much did they have in that bank? Because they're not getting that back either. So let's say 10%. Now they're down to 80%. Well, they could still last, but this one had 30% here and 10% here. So now they're down 40%. So they go bust because they were a good, strong bank. But this one now has 10% to them as well. The point is it becomes a domino. There's too much counterparty risk in financials in Europe because of their exposure in Russia that you would ever have anyone conceivably think about putting money in Europe as a flee from Russia, right? Like if you were breaking up with your girlfriend because she cheated on you, you would not then run to her best friend. You would get so far away from the situation that you might go date someone from, I don't know, Germany, right? Like someone far, right? Welcome to America. So when you go ahead and have money fleeing from these politicians and these governments that are blowing up left and right, that's then seeping into the financial sector with counterparty risk all over. Now you could say, Anthony, you're speaking of Armageddon. I don't think every bank in Europe is going to go to bust. It doesn't matter. Banks are built on confidence. Banks operate as fractional reserve banking. They only keep 10% of what they lend out. You give a bank $1, they lend out $10. Because the belief is there's never going to be a run on them. All $10 are not going to be called at the same time. In fact, it's their job to make sure that they're staggered. That's how they go ahead and keep an economy going. But if people lose faith and lose confidence because of the counterparty risk, and they run to the banks and take their money out, now the deposits are leaving the bank while the credit is still outstanding. They have to call in the credit. When they call in the credit, that domino leads to the rest. So you may say, Ant, that's not going to happen, and you may be right. But two things you're not counting. A, you may be wrong. And B, if other people think you're wrong, it is in their belief, it is in their self-fulfilling prophecy that if they're fearful of it and they guard against it, they actually create it. It's like when you're dating someone, you're saying, you're cheating on me, you're cheating on me, you're cheating on me, you're cheating on me, you're cheating. They're like, no, I'm not, no, I'm not, no, I'm not. And the 10th time, they're like, you know what? Fine. You think it, watch this, right? You cannot do that. It's a confidence game. So what does it mean? Okay. Well, when money's fleeing these regions, where does the money go? It goes to the strongest custodian. Now, here in America, your money's guaranteed. Here in America, we're the currency reserve of the globe. Here in America, we don't have anyone on our borders, aiming 6,000 nuclear bombs at us, right? Like it's pretty safe. Here in America, you have states' rights. Here in America, you have a vibrant economy that might be going into recession. We're going to raise rates. Now, I got to tell you something. I might actually reverse something that I've been saying, and it's because you're constantly learning every day, right? I, for forever, has said this central bank will never raise rates. That if they were to raise rates, they would bankrupt the country. And that is true. Because when you go ahead and raise rates, you're raising the rates on your own interest payments. This country owes $30 trillion, and the interest on that is by the prevailing market rates. So if you raise rates, you raise your interest payments on $30 trillion. That's a lot of money. So it's not in the interest of this government and this country to raise rates when they are the biggest debtor in the history of the world. In fact, when you raise rates, you issue new bonds with a higher rate, which means the previous bonds that you issued with the lower rates go down in value. So when you have $30 trillion worth of debt outstanding, that's all going to go down in value because you're going to raise rates. They're then going to sell those bonds. When they sell those bonds, the rates go even higher because now the bonds are going down in value. Nobody wants to own them at that rate. So they have to find a buyer. It's a market. So the rate then starts ticking up until you get a buyer. Then someone says, okay, that bond was $100 at 1%. Now it's $90 at 101%. I'll take it. Done. And I'm not sure you know what that meant, but I just got a little Wall Street with you. The point is there's an equilibrium, meaning that when you have 30 trillion worth of people selling their bonds, all looking for higher interest rates, while you're offering higher interest rates, you now have to pay higher interest rates. What's that interest rate eventually going to go to? I don't know, but I don't want to play that game. Therefore, if you owe $30 trillion on a to be determined interest rate, that's not a good position for a country to be in. Therefore, I did not believe they would ever actually raise rates. But like I've said from the beginning, the people in the Federal Reserve are lying, scheming dirtbags, and they always seem to know a little bit more than I do. Duh, right? Like I'm not the smartest person. The point being, well, if you have all this money fleeing Europe, where's the money going to go? To America. Where's the money going to go in America? We've always believed corporate America, and we believe that's where most of it will go. But do we believe that people that large institutions that have pension funds and whatever that own, say, 10 billion worth of Russian bonds that want to get out of it, do you think they then go buy $10 billion worth of Apple stock? No. They say, okay, we're bringing it in America. I want to be in the corporate sector. Those balance sheets are great, but I'm not going to go ahead and risk anything on the stock market. Put $5 billion into US bonds. I don't care. Just get me in them. They're guaranteed. I get paid in US dollars. US currency is good. They're guaranteed. Love it. Don't care about their debt. I'll worry about it at a later date. They're raising rates. Good. Buy me the new bonds. Buy those. I don't care. And put $5 billion amongst the Dow Jones, all the trophy assets in the country. The point being, I now am amending my belief on rates. I do think they're going to raise rates because I believe that the US government, whether by design or by luck, has found themselves in a situation where there is a money flow that's coming to the country that if people decide to sell their bonds, they will be purchased by this tidal wave of new money coming in. In fact, people that believe that this is like America crashing, no. This is America about to be in 1929. This is about to be the biggest rip-roaring rally you've ever seen over the next couple of years. You have so much money that wants to just find a new home. That's America. So now that we've shared our story time with Anthony, right? What are we going to do about it? So our belief is we love the US stock market, right? So over the last couple of weeks, we've seen turmoil. We've seen instability. We've seen us making a bunch of money. Then we lost 60% of money in Twitter. And then we made it to 150% back in PayPal, right? So a couple of things. One, you have to have an emotional discipline. Not everything's going to be great. If you believe as you're sitting, well, first of all, we have a lot of new people on. If you believe you're never going to lose money in the stock market, please shut this off. You are not allowed to be in the stock market. I do not think you're a reasonable adult. Number two, if you don't think there's ever going to be a time that you have a feeling in your stomach that makes you want to vomit because you don't know what's going on and the uncertainty in the news is, and your stock account is really, really beating you up, you're not allowed to be in the stock market. Please leave. Okay, now that we got those people out of here, how did I gain a person saying that? Anyway, the point of the story is these are the truths that you must know in order to play the game. Now, in playing the game, we go back to our Socratic method. Let's go back to step one, money flow. What does it mean? If you have more money coming into something, it goes up. If you have more money coming out of something, it goes down. Which means, and this is a very important lesson for everyone to understand, when things are at the highest point they're going to be, that's when the max optimism is present, right? Oh my God, I love the stock market. I love it, I love it, I love it. I would have nothing but it. It's the best thing in the world. My Uber driver tells me, my hairdresser tells me, my son told me, my daughter just made a bunch of money in Bitcoin. Everything's great. You just put money in the stock market. Everything's great. I go to the grocery store and my grocer just made $1,000 in stocks. Everything's great. Love the stock market. When you hear that, you run. That is the bell. That means get the out. Because why do we say that? Well, Anthony, the stock market's at a high. Anthony, everyone's happy. How can you say that's the worst time in the world? It doesn't equal. It does when you understand money flow. When all of the money is in something, everyone bought in. If you're a cab driver and your Uber driver and your daughter and everyone's making money, they're already in. How does it go any higher if everyone's already in? What's the marginal buyer? Who is that? Where's the new money coming in to take it higher? It doesn't exist. Everyone has it in, which means if you're at the top, there's only one way from there, down. And when it comes down, it goes down very quickly. Like my wife and I always say, the market takes the stairs up, but it takes the elevator down. Because when things are going good, it takes a step. Okay, I'm up, hey, I'm up. But when things get scary, everyone's like, oh, I don't know what's happening, but get me out, just get me out. I want to keep my money. Now, you know what I like much better? And it's funny because we've been together for over a year now. So those that have been with me for quite some time actually know this to be true. It's not me just saying it. In fact, 3 different times we've had this. In fact, if you look at our record, we just made 150% in 2 days on Friday. We just called a rip-roaring rally before an 8% move in the NASDAQ stock market in 13 market hours. That's not by accident, right? And we'll show it to you. But you know what I love? Oh my God, Anthony, I'm losing so much money in the stock market. I don't want to own anything. The market's down again. I just want out. I lost 70%. I don't care. I'm out. My mother's out. Everyone's out. CNBC says we're going to war. There's nuclear bombs. Just get me out of here. You know what happens when I hear that? Well, you can look at the timestamp. Thursday morning, we purchased $10,000 worth of PayPal $100 calls at like $4.90. We sold $25,000 worth on Friday, 3 p.m. at, I don't know, $12 or something. We made 150% on that investment. In fact, the other one that we sold, the PayPal 110 calls, were down 70% Thursday morning, and we sold them Friday afternoon up 50%. Now there's 2 people in life. There is the person that sold Thursday morning because they said, oh my God, I just had enough. And you know what they feel like right now? And I don't know if any of you are them, but I can promise you, because I felt this, where you sold at the absolute bottom and you then watched the market run 8% in less than 2 days, and you want to actually jump off a cliff. You actually are sick to your stomach. In fact, I bet you those people even vomited. And you know what they're thinking to themselves? The market's rigged. I'm done with it. And those people may never get into the stock market again. They may not jump in for another year, 2 years, 10 years. They may tell their children that story and say, I'm done with it. And they would be doing something completely wrong. Because the reality is they're not taking any blame for what they did. When the market was at its lowest optimism, with the max pessimism, you know what they forgot? Because they were too emotional. They forgot logic. If everyone is out, if everyone sold, if everything in the universe is telling you to get out, then presumably there's a very large percentage of people that did get out. There's a very large percentage of people that are done. When you're losing money and your neighbor said, I got out 2 days ago, really sorry, bro, that you're losing a lot of money still. You should have been like me. You should have got out. You're looking real stupid right now. You get out. And when we lost that money with Twitter, it was because we believed we got to that point already. We believe that, and that's a difficulty in the market, right? Right? Like, duh, where's the high, where's the low? But that's the hardest part to know where the max optimism is, where's the max pessimism? Because we actually believed it was a week earlier. We saw the stock, Twitter. We saw that they were doing their own buybacks. We loved everything about Twitter and we bought it. And I came here and said to everyone, guys, I have to sell it. I'm down 60%. And did we do it responsibly, right? Like, Anthony, you're down 60%, it's not responsible. That person needs to leave. I think I talked to myself. I think I'm actually like having a conversation with myself. Like, okay, Anthony, that person go. Anyway, the point is, we've so many times have bought options that expire that week, that expire that month. With Twitter, we said, we don't know if we're at the bottom. We believe we're closer to it than not, so we're buying them a month out, so we have that time value. And then even still, we own the 40s, then we bought the 38s because we're like, we need to go ahead and manage this. It's still going down. We cannot have 40s anymore. Let's sell them. Let's buy the 38s. And for those that don't understand what I just said, when you buy options, you're betting a certain stock to reach a certain price by a certain date. So when we went ahead and bet it was going to be 40, it was a decent looking bet compared to where the stock price currently was. It was like 38. When the stock price went to 36, well, we're now so much further from 40 that that bet lost a lot of value. So we want to get rid of that bet and buy the 38s so we can still presumably stay within a Hail Mary's reach. But as the stock kept going down, we said, all right, guys, enough. Like, we're selling it. And we went back to our algorithm, which is RHINO sequential, I think I call it. I have no idea. But it's complete measurement of exhaustion. It allows one to see very clearly in mathematical terms when a stock has reached a point of max pessimism, where you could take the emotion out of it and just read numbers and look at a color, right? 16 red and green, 17 red and green. We all know it. We're like, Ant, what is it? What is it? There's a 17 red and green that exists right now. Ant, what is it? What is it, right? So those that understand it know it, and those that don't, you're going to learn it, right? So PayPal was a 16 red and green when we bought it. It's no longer that anymore, and we no longer own it, right? We sold it Friday. In fact, we put a post in RHINO Wealth, our Facebook group, and said, guys, we're literally making too much money. It's uncomfortable because anytime you make money that quickly, you can lose it that quickly. We do not want to be a part of this anymore. We sold. So we're in just cash. We took, I think, $11,000, sent it to our bank account. We have $20,000 in the account right now, a stock account, and we're going to use it. So that was where we were. Okay. Anyway, so now that we see all this getting even worse in Russia, and we've shared our belief that it could even get further worse if China steps in, and so it's a hard market to navigate. But it's only hard to navigate if you don't know the outcome minus the variables. What do I mean by that, right? So if you said to me, Anthony, what's the market going to be a month from now? I don't know the answer to that, right? I know what I believe it to be, but I can't smooth out that many variables. If Russia launches a nuke at Ukraine, can I predict that one way or the other? No, but I can tell you money's going to leave Russia and leave Europe very quickly, and that money's going to come to the US, and that money flow is going to push US markets up. But do I know it's going to happen that day? Money might go sit under a mattress for a month. I don't know. The point is that 1 month duration does not allow me to smooth out variables such as a nuclear bomb or something, right? If you said, Ant, where's the market going to be a year from now? I can tell you higher. If you said, Ant, where's the market going to be 5 years from now? I could say probably close to 50,000. Ant, where's the market going to be by 2030? Over 60,000. I could make those because it smooths out anything that could happen along the way. The money flow is already happening. It's going to continue happening. Things that you're seeing in Russia, Ukraine are only going to get worse. And it's going to move over to Germany. It's going to move over to Europe. China's not going to sit there. You think China's just sitting there like, well, I guess we'll just hang out. No, China by 2032 is going to be the largest economy in the world. They don't just watch war happen and sit it out. They're going to make their moves too. So I know money flow where it's going. Between now and then, I still want to make money though. Am I going to say, okay, let me just hold off on everything and let's just buy stocks and hold them for years? Now, that's a good idea, right? So for the people in this platform that are literally just trying to learn how the market works, how they can be a better investor, how they can have their money work for them, then yes, buy stock, leave it alone. Preferably buy it at good opportunities, like now, right? I think the market, before I turned this on, the market was down 400. I don't know where it is now. I looked at Home Depot. I guess I let the cat out the bag. Home Depot is a stock I want to buy, right? It's 17 red and green. And it's funny because this morning I said to my wife, I was like, I want to buy Home Depot right at the open because I think that the market's going to figure itself out. Now I can be about that. I hope it doesn't. I hope the market goes down all day. I would like to buy it even cheaper tomorrow, right? But I feel like it might. And she goes, well, you always say that you would never buy anything from 9:30 to 10 because that's kind of like amateur hour. And I said, you're right. Because I right now am feeling so emotional. I need to buy it before someone else does. That's not logical. That's not the reason to buy. the time you buy something isn't timed perfectly because you say right there, I want to own it like a petulant child. So maybe it goes a little higher. Maybe I have no idea, right? But I want to own Home Depot. Now, you might say, well, Ant, you spent all this time talking and not once did you say anything about Home Depot. Yeah, it has nothing to do with Home Depot. Home Depot's in the Dow, which means it's in the 30 largest trophy companies of this country, which means any foreign money that's coming into this country that is not going to bonds because they're guaranteed by the US government is going to go into the Dow Jones Industrial Average. You're going to own your Apples of the world and your Microsofts of the world and your Home Depots of the world and your Goldman Sachs of the world and your Salesforce of the world. That's what they're going to own, which means I know that Home Depot is right in there. That's great. That's where I want to be. Home Depot says 17 red and green. What does that mean? It means for 17 consecutive days, Home Depot is less than it was 4 days prior, right? And it's a little more complicated than that, but that's basically 90% of it. It also factors in volume and volatility, which we do manually in front of everyone, right? But that's what it means. Well, and if it's down that many times, maybe it's going to zero. You're right, maybe it is. Well, it's also red and green. And what does red and green mean? Well, red is our indicator to show a coiled spring approach, that the veracity and the volatility of volatility has been so explosive that it's getting to a point that it's going to springboard up. Well, and something that goes to zero has the same veracity. Well, it's also green. What does that mean? It means new money flow is still coming into the stock, which means the people that presumably own the big funds that do the homework to put money into a stock do not see the risk of it going to zero. So when I see a 17 red and green, I'm good. Let's go. But and the 17 red and green guaranteed? No. In fact, the only one that we know that has worked every single time is 20 red and green. Well, and by definition, 20 red and green is 3 days lower than 17 red and green. So, why would you buy the 17? Well, not everything gets to a 20. But you're correct. By definition, it does mean 17 still go down, 18 still go down, 19 still go down. So let's take a look at the market. Let's see where things are. We would really like to own some Home Depot. But if I'm feeling a certain sexiness that I want to roll the dice a little bit and say, you know what? How about I either buy very, very little of it, or how about I don't buy any at all and we let the market do its thing and hope the market comes down tomorrow. Like if the market could come down tomorrow, how great would that be? Because I would so much rather buy an 18 red and green than a 17 red and green. But I just bought a 16 red and green in PayPal and made 150% in 2 days. So all things are relative. Let's take a look at the screen and see where we're at. By the way, love everybody that's here. And even more so than that, so I can see the participant list, right? And in doing so, I can see when it goes up or down. And the coolest thing about RHINO as a culture, as all of us together, but especially RHINO Wealth, and I know Vika speaks this in her RHINO meetings every day. The thing that we love about RHINO and all of our RHINOs that are part of it is that number always ticks up. It's like you can have webinars and you can have meetings where it's like, okay, you have 50 people and now it's down to 20 because everyone's like, this is stupid. I don't want to be here anymore. What makes RHINO so valuable is the fact that we do have a real perspective that's very liberating and educational and content filled that allows people to understand, no, this is kind of where I want to be. Whether they're right or wrong, they're genuine. And whether I'm learning something from them or not, I'm now better and bigger for it, right? And we thank you for that. So let's go to a share screen. All right, so let's move some stuff around. Let's see where we're at. All right. So first, let's go to, I just moved this, young Momo. All right, let's first go to the market, see where we're at. Oh, now the Nasdaq's up. I wanted so badly for the whole market to be down, but okay. Anyways, let's take a look. Now you must know how, well, not must, but you should. It's important that you know how to read these. The Dow Jones is the trophy assets of the country. It's the 30 largest, most special companies in this country. Meaning when money flow comes into this country, it does not go and buy Zoom or Snapchat. It buys the Dow because when that money comes in, it's very risk averse. Yeah, I want to buy the stock market, but I don't need to make 100% tomorrow. I don't need to go buy Snapchat. I want to buy ExxonMobil, a great American company, a company that if they go bankrupt, it's because the whole country fell apart. That's my security blanket. That's this index. The S&P is the benchmark that all funds are against, right? Hedge funds, pension funds, private equity funds. The S&P is the 500 largest companies in the globe. This is an index that's free. You can buy the S&P. It's called the Spiders. SPY is the ticker symbol. You can buy it and hold it, which means if you buy it and hold it for a year and the S&P did 10% this year, well, you just made 10% on your money for free, right? And not for free, but I think it's like a 0.01% fee, whatever. Or you say, okay, Mr. Stockbroker, okay, Mr. Hedge Fund guy, you said you can outperform the market and it's going to cost me 2% of my assets and 20% of my profit to allow you to trade it because you are so smart that you can beat the S&P, fine. Well, those funds are charging you 2% of your assets and 20% of your profits, which means they better outperform the S&P because the S&P is giving it to you for free. Therefore, everyone competes against the S&P because the lower the S&P goes, it's all relative. If my fund, if I'm a hedge fund and I did 20% this year, you might say, oh, that's good or bad, but that's not the correct answer. The correct answer is, okay, well, before I tell you if you did good or bad, what did the S&P do? Oh, the S&P did 25% and you did only 20%. You underperformed the S&P by 5%. You're going bankrupt. Everyone's going to sell their stock in you. You're going to have so much redemptions, you're going to be put out of business. So the S&P is very important. It's a gauge of what money managers are doing, if they're doing good or if they're doing bad. The NASDAQ is your retail index. That's your mom and pops and that's your stockbrokers. That's your people that, because remember, the stockbroker field is a solicitation field, right? It's cold calling. They call you, you pick up, hey, Mr. Jones, I'm Anthony of such and such stockbroker's firm, and I got a very special idea that I want to share with you. Grab a pen and write it down. And you're like, no, like I'm not trying to be pitched today. No. I understand that you weren't waiting for this, but opportunity comes a knocking, and opportunity knocks on the door. And are you man enough to go ahead and open that door? It doesn't always happen at the opportune time, but I think you would agree with me. Some of the best opportunities in the world have happened when you were least expecting it. Would you agree? And of course, the person says yes. It's a very cliche sentence. All right, you got a pen in your hand. Yes. Now you got the person say 2 yeses in a row. They're going to listen to you for a couple of minutes. Now that story you share with them cannot be. And I got a recommendation for you. I want you to go ahead and grab your pen, write down these symbols, PG, Procter & Gamble. They are the largest consumer product company. They make pacifiers. They make soap. They're, if inflation is 7% and inflation is going to come down, it means their margins is going to go up. And we believe you can make 5% very conservatively on your investment over the next year. The person on the phone is like, I wasted my time talking to you on the prospects that you might make me 5%. There is nothing that gets me going for that. Click. So stockbrokers don't pitch companies like Procter & Gamble. They say, you know what, grab a pen, tell me when you're ready. As this company, Moderna, they're going to have this COVID thing that's happening, it's decimating everything. They have an mRNA technology that they're going to go ahead and be able to create the first vaccine that's going to cure people of COVID. And whether you believe it or not, they're going to be able to sell it to companies and countries, and they're going to make a killing. This company, this stock is currently worth $2. I bet you'll be worth $400 in 2 years from now. It's $2 and it goes to 400, which by the way is true. Everything I just told you actually happened. It did go to 400. Now, when I'm being pitched, when someone's yelling in my ear, a company that I've never heard of before that could go from 2 to 400, you know what I'm thinking in my head? And we're all human. We all think the same thing. This guy sounds like a complete blowhard, right? Like he sounds like a joker. But if he's even a half right and it gets to 200, damn, if he's even a tenth right and it gets to 40, I would have made 20 times my money. All right. I'll test him out. I'll send him $1,000. All right. I send the guy $1,000. The stock goes from 2 to 3. He calls me back. Did you see what I told you about from 2 to 3? You made 50% on your money. If you would have just listened to me and given me 100,000 like I asked you, you would be up 50,000 right now. Do you want to be up 50,000? Yes. Do you wish you were 50,000? Yes. Do you wish you took my advice? Yes. Well, now I'm giving you better advice. Do it now. And now the person's like, okay, fuck. Like, I'm sorry, I cursed. Let me go ahead and send you the money. And that's how stockbrokers work. But they can only go ahead and be successful if they're sharing stories that have a certain outsized return, a certain sex appeal, right? So that's the NASDAQ stock market. Now, mind you, that's not to go ahead and poo-poo all NASDAQ, right? Amazon, Apple, they all started there. It's not that these stockbrokers are wrong. They're just wrong 90% of the time. At least 1 out of 10 times they're going to be right because that company has a real company. It's a real business. It's a real CEO. They're really trying to do something. And that's what makes the scam of it continue to work. That being said, this is an index of companies that do need longer duration to work. They're all, reinvesting in themselves, and they're all, the software, the technology, the innovation, right? So it will work, but it works over time. So when you see the NASDAQ up, this is kind of being led by people that are like, oh, did you see the market go down? It was just up 2 days in a row. Now it's up. It went down. Look, it's up again. Now, again, 1 out of 10 times it might continue. But when we see this down and this up, we don't really get that excited. We're like, do I really want to go ahead and follow, I don't know, stockbrokers over sovereign wealth funds? No, right? So this doesn't make me want to buy anything. Russell 2000 is your 2,000 smallest companies in this country. They are so economically sensitive because for the most part, they're all startups or they're very small, which means their ability to acquire customers and sales has to do with an economy being good. If an economy is bad, these companies don't do good because they're not big enough to withstand that storm. Also, though, on the other side of it, they're still small enough that bigger companies that want to go ahead and buy other companies, hey, I'm Microsoft. I don't want to go ahead and hire a bunch of people that could do something. I'd rather buy a company that does it already and then take their people with their technology already done. I'll go ahead and buy a company. This is where they buy them from. So when you see this up, it's telling you that there is a lot of money still coming into the stock market because these companies are either A, economically sensitive, or B, they're on the wish list of other companies to buy. And if you see a company buying a company, they're smarter than you and I, right? And then the VIX, this is the volatility index. This is, oh, people are getting crazy. And what you can see is it's up 1.8, but it was up 3 before. So volatility is coming in. So let's see what's going on, right? Okay. So look at this. Home Depot, 17 red. Oh, no green. It had a green before. So we're not going to, I really, really want to. We're not going to touch it. It got down to 310, which is actually interesting because remember what I said? It opened at 312. Actually, let's just show it to you, right? Okay. So what you can see is this is where it closed Friday. See down here, you're going to see a time. See, it says February 25th, 15:59. That's the last minute. It's in military time, right? Then what you can see here is where it opened. February 28th, 9:30. Okay, it went up. And look, it came right back down. So these are the people that were me. Oh my God, what am I? And now I'm feeling very good about it because that was not me. And they all sold it off. And now you see it coming back. What does that mean? I don't know, actually. I might go ahead and dip my toe in. So maybe just do 5,000 worth right here. I have 20,000 to work with, right? And that's because I'm able to manage my account and I put it there and it's profitable and whatever. So when you're able to, you need money to make money. That's step one. And everyone that's been a part of this platform has seen that money grow, right? So it's not like I just took it out of my pockets, right? Now it's 313.70. I don't see the greens. You know what? We're going to have a little level of discipline. AutoZone is no longer green. Do we even have any red and greens right now? Oh, Pfizer, 14 red and green. We'll put it up there. Ooh, this is Great Western Bancorp. So look at all these trend change bars. I don't know what's going on with this company, but 12 red and green with 3 trend change bars. A market cap over $1 billion. Volume close to 15 million. I don't really know. We might do a little bit of homework on that. So we have our, and that's what this is called, our super duper list, right? So we have it ready. Now, let me just, I have to message my team. I had a call at 11 o'clock. Okay. So here's the name of the game, right? I want to own Home Depot. I don't think I'm going to buy Home Depot here, but I want to. So we're going to look for it to be down, hopefully again tomorrow. Now, here's the thing. If the opportunity passes us by, that's okay. We are not going to ever sit here and say that we are Nostradamus and we are able to identify every single opportunity no matter what. Sometimes we're going to be wrong and something will go up in our faces and we'll say, gosh darn it, gee, really wish we bought it. But if you looked at our record, which is in your email today, I think we now have posted 28 trades and only 6 of them have been negative. And if you'll look, the ones that are negative are preceding really, really big gainers right afterwards. And that's simply because we took the losses because we were smart enough to know, and we were able to then move it into something that made it all back for us. So when you see an account that has 20,000 in it, you know that there wasn't money lost, right? Like they've been doing pretty good. So even saying that we've had 6 losses kind of don't even tell an accurate story, because you could take a look, we then bought something the very next day to go ahead and make that money back. So that's that. For those that are new and you went ahead and participated with RHINO, this is the way this now works. So we do our live every Monday from 10 to 11. We did a 3 or 4 weeks worth of boot camp that we were on every day, and a lot of people really liked it. I'm being swayed to do something more of that. But what you'll find out is that we have a much larger company. Hold on, I see something. Why not buy the Dow ETF? So that's a good idea. So what Don said is, why not buy the Dow ETF, which is DIA. I just put it in the chat. It's called the Diamonds. And I would say that's a good idea for if you're one of a couple people. One, you want to just own stocks and leave them alone, right? Because now you're owning an equal share of all the companies in the Dow. So you're holding this kind of long term, right? It doesn't have any kind of leverage to any one company. Or you're owning it as a trade and saying, okay, I want to own this and I think it's going to go up 5% over the next month. So this is my vehicle for trading. I believe that if I'm going to trade, I can find a vehicle more specific than a bundle of all the companies. And that's just a commentary on my own belief of me plus the algorithm, right? So Don is very correct. If you want to just own the Dow stocks, own the Dow index, DIA. But getting back to what I was saying, and I am being swayed, it's just a matter of we have a much larger company, RHINO, that we're doing a lot of innovative stuff that require me like every second. So I can't spend this time every day. But what I can do and what I do, sorry, my son and I watch Sesame Street all day. So do is a funny word in our house. We will go ahead and send out an email every morning that gives you a list of our super duper list and says, okay, HD, 17 red and green, 18 red, no green. Pfizer, 14 red and green, with the ticker symbol and the count. Presumably, you would know what the count means and say, oh, 17 red and green, I want that, right? Like, I'll go ahead and buy that. Because it is securities law that we will never go ahead and recommend, suggest, or anything. We're not licensed to do that. What we do is we share our research by showing you what we do for ourselves. So in that email you get every morning, I then go ahead and say, I bought this morning. And you get to see the buy, the exact time I bought it, the exact amount spent, the price, all of it. So you will always get a behind the scenes and a notification system of what we're doing. And then every Monday we get back together and I'm able to share with you an outlook going forward, commentary, questions, all the rest. We are not looking to be your stockbroker. We are looking to offer you education by using the stock market as a real-time tool, because we believe people in academia who sit there and write things on paper and have no experience in the real world don't know their ASS from their elbow. What makes RHINO so special is that the market is actually trading right now and we're talking about it while it's going on. And if we're wrong, guess what? The market's going to tell us we're wrong because the market's going to be down in our faces, right? Please check AMD. All right, let's go check AMD. Okay, so AMD was an 8 a couple of days ago. No red, no green. So as far as the list goes, these are the best, and not the best because I said so, but because I did all the work to go ahead and identify them. I'm really wishing I was there at 3:10 to buy Home Depot, but actually we were on a call together. Also, what I'll do is I'll go take a look at crypto, because that is something a lot of people, oh my God. Bitcoin's up almost 10%. Look at that, it was down to 37,000. Wow. So if anybody wants to see the power of red and green, here's red and green. And this is green, trend change bar. Where'd it go? Boom, right? So that's pretty cool. Let's go down the list, see if there's any opportunities. Dogecoin was 8 red and green with a trend change bar. Got as low as 10 cents, went always up to 13. See? Red, green, boom. Ethereum. Red, green, boom. All right, but let's take a look back in. Okay, you said 10 red and green. There it is. Boom. We're just skimming to see if there's anything that's actionable at the moment. So who remembers this 14 red and green? We highlighted it on our call, I think it was 2 weeks ago. 45, now 84. 14 red and green. Well, Ant, you know, like, how do you know? Like, this is 10 red, oh, no green. 11 red and green, what if you bought it there? Yeah, we always say we don't buy it until it's at least 16. So did we buy 14 red and green? No. But does that mean 14 red and green won't work? No, it works just fine. Just works with a less probability, right? See, 15 red and green, boom. There is one that like really did really well. Look at this, ICP. Who remembers this? 18 red and green, right? What was that, 22? Always up to 37, what, 2 weeks later? And what about this, 16 red and green? You would have bought that, right? You said 16 red and green. Yeah, I would have. I don't do crypto. But okay, 19 to 24. And as you can see, it's not that I'm pulling up a list where I'm like, oh, I'm gonna, trick everyone with these. I didn't go back in time and write these numbers in. This is the computer system. This is what I've created. Look at this one. Who remembers this? 16 red and green. And again, we didn't buy it, but we said 16 red and green. Again, guys, I just had like rewind this 10 seconds ago. It went from 0.009 to 0.04. Who owned that one, right? And I remember showing this because Michael always asks me about crypto. Oh, there he is. How's Twitter doing? A lot of important use of Twitter in Europe now. Yeah, I don't know. We'll take a look at Twitter in a second. We sold it. And then what I can always say is when you sell something, just get rid of it. So we sold it and we no longer have it on our screen. So we have to look it up. But yeah, everything in crypto land looks like it kind of did its thing already. All right, so let's go back to our super duper list. Now Home Depot's 313. All right, Twitter. All right, so Twitter is up, 50 cents on the day. That's pretty cool. I can get rid of that. All right. So as it pertains to Twitter, it looks like it's getting over this 35.5 level. Over that 35.5 level, you have a downtrend over here, and then this line, which is 40. And to Michael's point, I mean, anyone that's looking for news at all is on Twitter. So the use is there. It's just a matter of management competence that they just can't seem to figure it out. We no longer own Twitter. We love Twitter. I love Twitter. In fact, out of every company, I use Twitter more than everything. I use it every day. You can ask my wife. I'm up at 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock in bed in my Twitter. That being said, as it pertains to a stock, it is red. It's not a number anymore. It's no green. So if I didn't own it, I wouldn't be buying it. So I can't really offer much more than that. If it holds this 35.5 level, I would say you're in the clear. So what's this line right here? So this is what I'll say about Twitter. If it breaks under 35.40, 35.30, sell it. If it breaks over 40, buy more of it. While it's in between, it's just kind of no man's land. That would be my, all right, let's take a look at Palantir. Palantir is making its way back up. If you listen to that conference call, it was terrible. It sounded like they were all drunk. I don't like the company because I listened to the conference call. But what you can see is, look, 16 red and green, but it turns into a 17 red and green, 12 turned to 14 in what, 2 days? Now we see a trend change bar here, but still going lower. It kind of looks like a cup and handle, right? There's the cup, here's the handle. Ooh, does it keep going? I don't know. We would have to look at volume for that. What I will say is we're going to leave it there. We will send out an email tomorrow at 10 a.m. We're going to offer a little more commentary into what the super duper list looks like if we're going to make any purchases. Between you and I want to own Home Depot. I want to buy it right now, but now it's 314. I'd rather it closer to 310. So if this market pulls back today, or God forbid it starts down tomorrow, I will be buying it. Oh, Don, seriously, my pleasure. And if it runs away from us, I'm going to be a little upset that we missed it. But it's a stock market. There's always another thing to buy. So if you miss it, you miss it, right? But let's just see where things go. So love everyone. Sorry, I did tell you that we were most likely going to be buying something today. I am sharing with you what that was. If you want to buy it, I think owning a 16 red and green, you'll be fine. But for me, I want to own a 17 red and green. So I'm gonna test my luck a little bit. So I love everyone, and I'll see you next Monday. Everyone will receive my email tomorrow. Bye, guys.